Today being International Man's Day, I've decided bilingually to present an etymological and mythological analysis of the word man through the Greek word man, which is andras. In English and in many languages, we have the word android, referring to robots which are man-like. Andras and id, from andras and idos, which means man-like, android. We have androgynous, okay? We have many words, many derivatives in English from the Greek root andras. Originally, in ancient Greek, the word was pronounced oanir, anir. And because the Greek is highly inflected, it was oanir to andros. So the genitive was later absorbed by modern Greek. So we say andras today to see man. It has the negative a prefix, and it stems from the word nir, from the sound that rushing water makes. Nir, he who no longer flows, and he whose movements and actions and thoughts are no longer ordained by his hormones, but by wisdom, the wisdom that only a man acquires. When you're a kid, you are a παιδί in Greek, which means you cannot be referred to as a man yet until you become fully grown. Around the word man, we can associate nature. In Greek, we also associate a man's stature in life as that of a cypress tree. And there's a myth around the cypress, which is also of Greek origin. The word in Greek is kiparisos, of course mispronounced in English and in other languages. Kiparisos is now pronounced cypress. Kiparisos used to be a young man. He was a hunter, befriended by Apollo. And both of them just loved to hunt together. One day, Kiparisos, this stout, tall, handsome young man, as he was hunting, he killed a female deer. When he approached the body of the deer, he noticed that she had just given birth to a young stag, which he took home, nourished, raised. Henceforth, it followed him in every escapade during his hunts. He grew to really love that animal, and he was inseparable from his pet. One day, unfortunately, he saw something thrashing in the woods. And he shot his deadly arrow, only to find out that he had killed his beloved animal. Inconsolable, he began mourning, and Apollo, seeing that his friend would no longer be the young man that he was after having killed this pet of his, turned him into the tree, the cypress, which represents to this day manly stature and the beauty of one of the proudest trees of the forest. In the distance, it looks very dark because it has the darkest foliage. And of course, we can see it in cemeteries, indicative of the fact that despite its stature, it is a tree of mourning, and the resin represents the tears. Having associated the tree to manliness, once during my own escapades in the mountains, I came across a cypress that stood alone on the top of a hill, which was once tree-laden with other cypresses. A forest fire had destroyed most trees. This one cypress stood alone. And I realized that nature and mankind are in tandem when it comes to their numbers and stature. And I was inspired from the stoutness of this tree and the way it stood, despite the fire, the winds, the howling winds and everything. I was inspired to write a poem in the 90s, in English and in Greek, and I would like to share this with you. O cypress-laden mountains, your majestic trees I count, whose timeless Doric form they raise, on every Grecian mount. Like columns, proud, erect, they stand in reach of heaven's dome. I often pay them visits in their rugged sylvan home. And even when they're lashed at by the fury of a storm, their color and their dignity retain their upright form. I've seen them act as lightning rods, defying heaven's wrath, and learn from them to persevere along life's treacherous path. My visits, though, are tainted when I go to homage pay, as I with dread attest to their dwindling numbers day by day. Once I stood in wonder before a cypress that arose, alone above all nature, and on it its height imposed. Much like a Titan, it aspired to stretch into the sky, striving to Olympus reach, and with Olympians vie. Scarcely had I asked myself just why it stood alone, than its wind-blown foliage it whispered out a howling moan. It was as if it strove to say that nature and mankind were marked by oscillations that the size of trees defined, and dwindling counts of cypresses accordingly ordained the count of men of noble stature who've on earth remained. Kiparisos, O Lord of trees, of harmony and grace, you symbol of nobility, Apollo's warm embrace. Look about you from your height and witness what is left of stature and your rectitude. The world is now bereft. Bend, O cypress, drown your pride, for you do stand forlorn. Shed your resin tears, O cypress, through your foliage mourn. But not for your beloved stag that met your fateful dart. For all the creatures of the forest now from life depart. Mourn the loss of harmony, lament the human race, which, severed from your measure, lives devoid your nature's grace. I dedicate this to all the mask-bearing humanity that has deviated from the natural course of things.